Polly Talbott, and I'm the owner here at Carte. I've had Carte for about 12 years, a little more actually now. And teaching with me tonight is Chef Katie Voltaggio. Katie studied at Johnson & Wales University, which is a really great school. And I love working with her, and I love her youthful enthusiasm, so we always have a really nice time when we teach together. So tonight's menu is, it's a funny name, my favorite meal to teach. But the reason this is my favorite meal to teach is that it's like chock full of technique. And I think technique is what everybody needs to learn. You need to learn how to do things, and then once you do that, you can create your own things. You can go out and shop and buy something a little bit different, and if the string beans aren't available, you know how to adapt it to something else. So you can kind of mix and match with your techniques and your food. So that's why I like to teach technique.
A little bit about knife skills before we begin. You'll find your cutting board. Underneath our cutting board, there's these little white mats. They're just there so our board doesn't move around. At home, you can use a damp piece of paper towel. Serve the
Or
same
get those mats. You buy them in a roll at the hardware store or something.
They're great.
Yeah.
So with our knives, we like to teach the blade grip, where you put your thumb on one side, your index finger on the other, and you wrap your other 3 fingers around. So you're technically pinching your knife. If you have smaller hands, or you find that this is very, very uncomfortable, you can just hold the handle. But these are the best ways to hold your knife. You have the most control over your knife this way, and you're less likely to cut yourself if you hold your knife like this. We like to, with the other hand, make sure you pull back all 5 fingers. So you're going to hold your food like this, and you're going to technically be able to rest your knife against your knuckles without slicing yourself. So we like to teach the rocking motion, where we push down and we pull up. Our knife should technically never leave our board when we are slicing straight through something. You should be able to push your food without moving your knife up off the board. On TV, you'll see them bang around on the board to chop like that. That ruins your knife. Knives are very expensive. And what happens is the tip of our knife will actually become so dull that it would become a flat surface. And to get them resharpened that way, it's extremely hard to get done.
We're going to start out with bruschetta. Bruschetta comes from the word bruscare, which means to roast over coals in Italian. This is your classic one. It really means the toast, but as we were talking about before, but most people think of it, the classic version is the one with the tomatoes on it. So what we're going to do to make the toast, we're going to slice the bread, and we're going to actually toast it on the grill. And we're just going to toast it on one side. And then we're going to take that side and we're going to rub it with a cut clove of garlic. And we're going to flip it over. And then inside that little soft part is where we're going to nestle our tomatoes. And when what you're going to learn on this one is you're going to learn how to peel, seed, and dice a tomato. So you're going to take your knife and you're just going to put a little X. George sharpened our knives today and they're really nice and sharp, so I'm cautioning you there. You're going to put a little X right here. And you're going to plunge it into some boiling water, and it only takes maybe 15 seconds. You'll see it just start to open up, and then you're going to take it out and quickly put it into ice water to stop the cooking and make it so you can handle it, and then you'll just be able to peel off the skin. This is a classic, or really perfect example of a recipe where it's great to peel it, because I think that once you get the skin off, then the tomatoes can really absorb the wonderful flavors of the garlic and the basil and everything you're going to put with it. So what we're going to do after we take it out, we're going to take out the stem end. We leave the stem end on when we are dropping it in the boiling water and blanching it, because otherwise it's going to get soggier. So I like to take the stem end out afterwards. See how it's nice and smooth? It's not, if you leave them in too long, it's like you're stewing your tomatoes in the shell, in the skin.
Never knew tomatoes were so easy to peel.
Yeah. This is the same way you do peaches.
You're going to come down.
What I would suggest is you put them in something else.
Go right around.
The reason to do that is if there's ever any impurity or anything in them,
It comes right out. Then we're going to cut it in half.
no shells. Yeah, that's the other good. Out of context.
Squeeze it out. If it all doesn't squeeze out, all your seeds are out, You're gonna put it down. You wanna flatten it just a little bit. And then we're gonna use your chef knife. And we want them all to be the same size. So you cut horizontally first. Take them all off. You're going to take your whole tomato and turn it, and you run it through one more time. So it's nice, uniform little pieces of tomato.
Where should we put those?
You can dump your ice water and put it right into that bowl.
And then with that, you're going to have a little fresh basil and some extra virgin olive oil and some salt and some fresh pepper. Okay, it's always good to use fresh pepper whenever you do. Pepper has the problem that as soon as you grind it, it starts to lose its flavor. So it's good to use fresh peppercorns and grind them every time. And then you're going to put that in that little soft side, like I mentioned, and that way it's going to, what it does is, instead of when you bite into it at a cocktail party and it shatters all over, this helps it not quite do that quite as much. So the little soft side helps with that. Our main dish tonight, we're going to make chicken piccata. This is my favorite recipe to teach, absolutely. Of all the recipes here, this is my favorite recipe. Because you learn to saute in this one, and I think sauteing is the secret to quick meals. It's really it's quick technique, and it always comes out nice and delicious. What you're going to do is take some chicken cutlets, and we're going to butterfly them. Katie's going to do that. She's going to actually split them.
You want to make sure it's nice and flat, and I always like to start with the thicker side of your chicken breast and then slowly move towards the thinner side. So you put your palm straight on, make sure you pull back all 5 fingers. You want to keep your knife as flat as possible. If you angle it just a little bit, you'll go down on an angle. So nice and flat, and you're just going to cut right through. And then you can open it up. And that's butterfly.
Great, and then we're going to pound it a little bit. You want to pound it so they're like an even thickness so that they cook evenly. Sometimes the chicken breasts sometimes are so huge. Sometimes you can even get three out of one if you want. But we'll pound it a little bit so it's a little flattened. And then what we'll do is we'll dredge it in seasoned flour, which is just flour with some salt and pepper. I'm going to combine that on a plate here with put the salt and pepper together. And then you'll just dredge it in and shake it off. And then in your skillet, you're going to have, this is how you saute. You're going to heat your pan a little bit. Then you're going to add some oil and some butter. The butter would be great to do just butter, but it's going to burn. So you put a little oil with it so it won't burn as quickly. So we have oil and butter. Put your oil in first, then your butter. And when the butter stops foaming and it's melted, you'll see, a little trick to see if it's hot enough is to just put your finger under the water and drop it in and see if it bounces and it's hot enough. You don't want to get it too hot because the butter will start to burn. You want a good hot, sauteing on high heat. Saute means jump. So you want activity, things going on. That's kind of what it's about. So you want to get it nice and hot, then you'll put your oil in. Now the amount of oil that it tells you to use is basically just to coat the bottom of the pan. So if you're at home making this, you don't have to actually measure. You're just going to lightly coat the bottom of the pan. Okay? And if you don't have enough, you put more. But then you're going to add your chicken. You want to not put too much chicken in. When you saute, you don't want to crowd the pan. If you crowd the pan, things end up steaming. But you don't want to leave too much space either, or then the butter in between will burn. So there's kind of a happy medium in there. Once you've got it nice and browned on one side, you flip it over and get it brown on the other side. And then you're going to take them out, and you're going to do what they call deglaze.
Put the lemon on one side?
Yeah, I do. That's what I do to keep from burning it. Yeah, we like to deglaze with the lemon slices first. There's a lot of different ways to make chicken piccata, but this is what I do. The lemon slices you put in, and they get a little bit cooked a little bit that way. I like that. They're in the brown cooking. they like emit this bitterness into the sauce. So you want to make sure when you cut your lemons, you take the seeds out. All right. Are we ready? Yeah, let her put the lemon juice in. Put some lemon juice in. And then it'll steam up, and you're going to give them about half a nut, and then you're going to make everything deglaze. You're deglazing. So you're going to put, scrape up all those brown bits so they're really, yeah, you want it to go all over the sides of the pan. Yeah. Those are flour too, remember, so you need a little bit more.
A little more.
The flour is going to help thicken the sauce too, so you want to make sure they're all dissolved into your sauce. Nice work. Scraping those brown bits. Okay, and then your stock. Here's your stock. You're going to divide that evenly. And then they're going to return, and then you're going to return the chicken to the pan. And then you bring that kind of to a simmer. And then you're going to add capers, and then you're going to return the chicken to the pan. And that way, there at that point, you're going to be able to make sure it's fully cooked all the way through. And then you'll season it. I forgot to tell you to season it. You'll always season every time. You always want to taste things as you go, the sauces as you go. And then you just return it to the pan and heat it up, and then we'll garnish it with some chopped parsley in the end. Put it on a nice platter. But it's a real easy thing to make. You can transfer that technique. Sometimes you can use like the boneless pork cutlets and pound them flat, and then maybe deglaze with red wine instead. So you can use this. You can use veal. Obviously, veal piccata is very good, so you can use that as well. So it's a nice technique that you can. It's very versatile. You can use different things with it. But the key to sautéing is the hot skillet and not crowding the pan. And
one thing, when you do put your chicken in and it gets nice and lightly golden brown, you don't want it to get totally golden brown and then flip it over and get it nice, really golden brown on the other side. Because when we put it back into the pan, it's going to dry out as we finish cooking it in with our sauce. So
right, we see a lot. Like a lot of people sometimes will they're worried that of course you don't want raw chicken, but you don't want like rubber chicken either.
So don't worry about cooking it in the first stage, because we're going to finish cooking it in the sauce later on.
The next thing we're going to make a nice side dish. This is simple, but green beans with toasted pecans and gorgonzola cheese. So you're going to have your string beans, and I like to cut them. You can cut them either way, but I like to give them a little angle. You don't need to take this tip off because it's perfectly fine. Unless it's brown or nasty or whatever, you might want to take it off. But I like to give them a little angle because I think it looks pretty like that. So you're going to clean all your string beans. And what we're going to do with those is you're going to learn to blanch. So what you do when you blanch is you bring a big pot of water to a rolling boil, and then you add a handful of salt at that time, a nice generous handful of salt. And then you add your beans, and you're going to cook them until about 5 minutes or so, until they're crisp tender. You'll take one out and see if it's tender. And then what you're also going to do is shock them. And that means to put them in the ice water, kind of like you did the tomatoes. You'll put them in the ice water, and that will stop the cooking. This is a step that you can do ahead of time. If you're having company, or if you want to just prep everything ahead of time, you can blanch them and even, shock them and put them in the refrigerator, even overnight if you want, so that they're all ready. Then you're going to melt butter in the skillet, and you're going to saute your pecans in the skillet. And they'll get like a little bit crispy. Often when I toast nuts, I don't put anything in the skillet, but in this case we're going to use the flavor of butter later. So we're going to put the butter in there first, and then brown the pecans. Coarsely chopped, okay? So what you're going to do, lay them out, and then you're going to coarsely chop. And this is how you're going to do it. You're going to hold your knife like this, grip 3 fingers, 1 hand, and then you're just going to come across them like this. Okay?
Make them in a pile like
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say that your goal, let's say coarsely chopped, I would say something like in that range, okay? It would be coarsely chopped. You want to have a little bit, you want them to get a piece of nut.
like this, right?
Yeah. You could actually, this hand's good. Take the other one and go like that. Fingers up. Yeah, right, now you just got to do it one way. Yeah, you got it. He's a pro, Kim. And you can just kind of toss them around.
All right, Jen, she told me no.
Yeah,
I did a great job.
Yeah,
That was
great.
professional.
yeah, professionally chopped pecans. Yeah. Very good. Okay. And you have professionally, these are the beans that we blanched and put in boiling salted water. They look perfect. I like them to be a little bit soft. I'm not that real al dente vegetable person, although you can make them however you like. But I like them just cooked, you know, like so they absorb the flavors of it. And then we'll add the string beans back. Yeah, I think so. Did you taste it for salt and pepper? Yeah. Okay. Good.
I want you to get it on my shirt.
And then you're going to stir in some Gorgonzola cheese, which is a really great cheese from northern Italy. And then you're going to save a little bit and sprinkle that on the top. The cheese will melt into it a little bit, but then the rest you'll sprinkle it on the top. Our garlic. We're going to roast garlic. We're making roast garlic new potatoes. So we're just going to take a serrated bread knife and cut it across like that. And then what we'll do, you can actually poke holes in it if you want, or you can just stick little, see, you can put little pieces of rosemary in there. And this is going to flavor our potatoes. And this is the technique you could use if you want to make, you know, garlic mashed potatoes or anything. You could stick these in here or you could just sprinkle them on top, either way. Doesn't matter. And then you're going to put a little salt and a little fresh pepper. Just like I said, a little fresh pepper. And then we're just going to put a little olive oil on top. Careful. Careful. It's a big bottle. Okay. All right. So then we're going to just wrap this in foil. And then Katie's going to pop it in the oven back there. Oh, no, Beth is. This is Beth. Beth is going to help us keep in order tonight. And she just put that top oven over there is hot. Okay. We have it on a 450 degrees, so it's a nice hot oven. So then you're going to take your potatoes and you're going to cut them into bite-sized pieces. You don't want them too I got all these things on here. Too small. Probably, and when you're cutting things like this, you want to put them on the flat side. I think this probably would be a good size, right? That drop smaller. But you want to keep them in a uniform size when you're making them. If you're in a rush, make them smaller, they cook faster. But you want to keep them in a uniform size so that they're all cooked evenly throughout. But what you're going to do, we have two choices of pans. Katie said, you use this? I go, yeah. I use this at home. It's the broiler pan, and I like it because it's dark. You can use a dark sheet pan if you have one of those too, or you can use a regular sheet pan. But I like the dark one because it helps coax it to be a little crispier on the bottom, a little browner on the bottom. So you're going to coat all your potatoes with some olive oil, salt and pepper. Put them on here, and then we'll pop them in the oven with the garlic. And about 30 minutes after they're in, I guess it is, you're going to put some rosemary, chop up some rosemary. And the way you take rosemary off, you don't use the woody stem of rosemary. You're just going to pull the outside off like this. Once the herbs like thyme and some of the other herbs, you'll see when the stems are woody, you don't usually use the stems. But see up here at the top, you can, where it's really soft, you don't have to worry. So then we'll chop this up, and you'll just chop this up nicely. Well, we're going to chop this up, and when they've cooked about 30 minutes, we'll sprinkle it over the top, toss it in again, and then we'll just keep cooking them until they're nice and crispy and brown on the outside. Then at the end, when you bring them out, you take the garlic, and it's like soft, and it gets like a nice sweet kind of flavor, and you can just squeeze it. I like to squeeze it into a little dish to mash it a little bit, like with a fork, but then you just toss it all with the potatoes. And it is amazing, and nobody will realize how easy it was. I mean, it's so easy.
You
But
don't cover them.
what's that?
You don't cover the potatoes?
No, you don't cover them. Yeah, you want them to get crispy.
Okay.
If you covered them, they would like steam a little. They get
Okay.
soft. Yeah. So we want them nice and crispy. but they are amazing. So we really like those here. For dessert today, we're making a really delicious dessert. One of our favorites. This is Profiteroles with ice cream and hot fudge sauce. And this profiterole dough is it's made from this classic dough called a pot of choux. It's a choux paste. And choux means little cabbages also, because they look like little cabbages when you make them. But this is a very classic French dough, and you get these profiteroles out of them. You can make cream puffs, eclairs, St. Joseph puffs. There's a beautiful dessert that they make in France called Paris Brest. It was made in honor of a bicycle race from Paris to Brest, and it's like 3 rings of the choux paste, and then so it's like a bicycle tire, and then puffs up, and you put nuts on the top, almonds on the top, and then you slice it and you put pistachio ice cream and hot fudge sauce over it. It's really, really very, very. But if you get this concept, you can make that as well. See, what you're going to do is have water with some sugar in it and some butter in it, and you melt that. And kind of bring it to a boil. Then you're going to stir in your flour all at once, and you're going to see it's kind of going to make a film on the bottom of the pan, and you stir it and cook the flour really well, and then you take it off, and there's salt in there at that point, and you take it off the heat. And the key to making these perfect is that you need to stir them until the steam stops. I've had baking chefs who just actually put it in a different bowl and beat it. But you need to stir it constantly until the steaming stops. And then you're going to add eggs one at a time, because you don't want to cook the eggs ahead of time. You want them to blend in. Otherwise, they won't be able to do what they're supposed to do in the oven later. So you stir it till the steaming stops, and you add 1 egg, and you'll see it'll look like it's never going to go in. Then you keep stirring, and then you add another egg, and it'll look like it's never going to go in. You keep stirring, and it will, and you'll get them all in. And then you're going to take like 2 spoons, and you make like drop cookies on the sheet pan. We're going to use parchment paper to line it, or you can use Silpat liners if you have those. Then we're going to bake those in a hot oven, and then we're going to bake them about 20 minutes, and then we're going to pierce them on the side. They'll get nice and puffed and brown. Pierce them on the side and cool them in the turned off oven, and that'll keep them nice and crispy. If you pierce them on the side, we're going to let the steam out, so that'll help also make them nice and crispy. These are nice and crispy, but most of the time when you're cooling things, you want to cool them on a rack, because they'll stay crispy underneath. If you cool them on the pan, they kind of right on the bottom, you're steaming instead. So we want to get them off the pan. Everybody knows this, that sweetened condensed milk makes some great desserts. But this is an easy sauce. You melt chocolate chips with butter and some condensed milk, and then once it's all melted, you stir in a little vanilla and some salt. It gets nice and thick. If it sits a little bit too long, you thin it with hot water, and you can thin it down a little bit because it gets very thick. But it is delicious, creamy, smooth hot fudge sauce. And you'll open the profiteroles and put a scoop of ice cream inside, put the top on, and then drizzle the hot fudge sauce over.